Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment podcast that's hosted by a Giant Mess. That's me, the real cinch, Neal Lynch. I'm a former fourth-string college quarterback and mediocre middle relief pitcher who earned himself a film and media studies degree. And now, I'm a single dad who loves to talk Giants football, Mets baseball, movies, TV, and comedy. On today's episode, we're going to look at the biggest stories and storylines for each month of the Mets 2025 season. We'll also look at the top moments of David Wright's career after having his number retired and his induction into the Mets Hall of Fame. And so, without further ado, let us finally get it started up in here. July 2025. Metros rebounded a bit. This was their second best month, believe it or not. I know for a lot of people it didn't feel like it. For me personally, it didn't feel like it. You know, we got a lot of wins against some bad ball clubs that we probably would not have won had the ball clubs that we played been better and executed fundamentally. But a win's a win's a win. It's just it doesn't instill a lot of confidence in me the way that we were winning. You know, obviously you want to beat bad teams, but you want to beat the bad teams badly? Like, beat them up. You don't want to just barely get a win against bad teams. So that's where I get a little bit on edge. In terms of championship leverage index, so this is the baseball reference metric that I referenced earlier. A lot of key games as we start the month of July. We started off with a doubleheader against the Brewers. We lost that first one 7-2, but then we bounced back in the double bill second half, winning 7-3. And then we take the series from the Brewers, dude, the Brew Crew. Now, I know the Brewers had some issues of their own injury-wise, missing some guys in the lineup and the roster. But anytime you can take a series from a team like the Brewers, who are, we'll get to it in a little bit, but you look at the postseason odds, and like they have the best odds to win the World Series, according to Baseball Reference. So, obviously, this is a month ago. A lot's changed in that time. But to take 2-3 from the Brewers, a team that has historically given us nightmares and has been a thorn in our side for a lot of the regular season, you know, even though we did take them down in the wild card last season, in the last postseason, typically in the regular season, they have had our number. They've been a bugaboo for us for years. I think I had a stat like since 2010. We have one of the worst head-to-head records against the Brewers. So that was good to come out of that horrific June swoon with taking 2-3 from the Brewers. And then we took 2-3 from the freaking Yankees, dude, over 4th of July weekend. I got to watch it at my buddy's daughter's high school graduation party. My buddy's a big Yankees fan, as are his dad and a lot of his friends there. I think it was the sole Mets guy in that crew. And that was fun to watch. Eked out a win, 6-5 in game one. Took it to them 12-6 in game two, and then ultimately lost that Sunday affair, which it feels like Sundays are not fun days for the New York Mets. Like it's just like we must take that day of rest thing very seriously as a Mets organization and fan base, because like I feel like our records on Sundays stink. So we ended up losing 6-4 there in a game that you probably could have won. Would have been nice to sweep, but the Yankees were hurting during that time period. I think especially offensively, they had a lot of guys. They have a lot of guys that are just hovering around 200, you know, and they had some injuries to their pitching staff as well. So they were kind of going through what we were going through from an arm standpoint, and it showed. I mean, they had guys in there that my friend had no idea who they were and should not be probably on a mound at the professional level. On July 4th, though, America's birthday. What a day to announce that Francisco Lindor was named an All-Star starter. This is his first All-Star appearance as a member of the New York Mets, and he is the third Mets shortstop to start an All-Star game, joining Buddy Harrelson in 1971 and Jose Reyes, Jose, in 2007. He is, it's also the first fan-elected starter at any position since Yoenis Cespedes in 2016. We ended up losing bullpen stalwart Daniel Nunez to a potential season-ending injury. I mean, again, You take a look at what this opening day roster looked like, or even like the guys that were not on the opening day roster because they were hurt, like McNeil or Minaya. You look at the roster that we had towards the beginning of the season, and you look at the number of dudes that we have lost to injury. Again, this goes back to, it's a testament to the depth that David Stearns has built. A lot of times I think GMs, owners, they're focused on their starting nine. They're focused on their starting rotation, and they're focused on their closer. They're not focused so much on the bullpen, middle relief, backups, pinch runners, all that stuff. The entire 27, 40-man squad. Stearns and Cohen have built this team to the point where we can go through, I don't know. I honestly can't think of a time as a Mets fan other than maybe 2017. 2017 was nuts in terms of like the amount of injuries we had. I think Yo went down, Thor went down. It was just a mess. I can't remember another season where we were playing this level of baseball, meaning we had the winning percentage we did, the place in the standings that we did, and have suffered the number of injuries that we had that would normally debilitate and cripple another team or organization in any other season. And we're still have our head above water, and we're still in contention. We still could win the crown in the East. So, hat tip, major time hat tip, respect to them for keeping things from going off track and going haywire. On July 6th, John Heyman tweeted that Juan Soto, who led the National League in offensive WAR and walks, second in OBP, and third in runs, didn't make the All-Star team via initial player voting. So that's, I guess, phase one. I think he was sixth, which that is on the outside looking in. Although I thought it was always 6 outfielders make it because you have the 3 that start and then you have the 3 that come in. But I could be wrong about that. And then Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz were the other Mets All-Stars, joining Francisco Lindor initially, and then David Peterson joined the team after one of the pitchers bowed out. So he was an alternate, and he eventually got to, and he played in the game, and he looked great. I thought he looked good. Only 7 players in Major League Baseball history have recorded at least 20 home runs, 70 walks, 15 doubles, and 10 stolen bases prior to the All-Star break in a season. Juan Soto is the only one to not make the All-Star team. So, Juan Soto, welcome to the New York Mets. This is what we do. You can play well enough to make the All-Star team and not make it. I mean, just talk to your buddy, Francisco Lindor. Lindor should have been an All-Star last year and should have been an All-Star in 2022, I want to say. So there's 2 All-Star nods that he got passed up on. And I'll say it, strictly because he's on the New York Mets. But it is interesting because I think there was still a large swath of Mets fans that didn't like Lindor because he's not playing up to his contract. I mean, I've had debates with Mets fans about that. It's just like, it always comes back to the fucking contract. And I'm like, dude, forget the money for a second. I know it's tough. We live in New York. Cash rules everything around me. I get it. But goddamn, look at his numbers. Look at where he stacks up. New York is one of the bigger markets, and I understand there are more Yankees fans than Mets fans, but every Mets fan should be voting for Francisco Lindor. And if every Mets fan is voting for Francisco Lindor, how the fuck is he not making the All-Star team? And I think that changed this year. It was just like, listen, we have got to step it up as a fan base. Why are we not voting for this guy? And I think it goes back to what he did at the end of last season. The big home run against the Braves towards the end of the regular season, the clutch home run against the Phillies in the NLDS, like those kind of moments and those kind of things that propelled us in the postseason are what stuck in everyone's minds. And I think that's what turned the tide and momentum towards most Mets fans. I mean, you're still going to have the Lindorks who are just like, hate on him for whatever reason because the contract or whatever. But goddamn, like, it's so good to see him become not just an all-star, but a starter. And that should be the case moving forward, just as it should be the case with Juan Soto moving forward. So anyone who's like, oh, well, Soto's having a down season, it's like, look at these. Even in a down season, he's outperforming just about everyone on the Mets roster and most of the National League roster. most of the National League right fielders. So it's whatever, dude. Another feather in the cap. It's like, and I saw the tweet was, I mean, everyone had the same thought. Like, you are officially now a New York Met, Juan Soto. And this is where things get hairy, you know, that week going into the All-Star break, right? Because we have a 3-game set in Baltimore against the Orioles, against an Orioles team that is straight up struggling, that looked so great last year, and I was pulling for them last year, and you know, ultimately didn't pay off. And then they have now decided, like, I mean, I saw something the other day where it was like they had one of their more recent home games had an attendance, and this could be hyperbole, it's probably exaggerated, but man, did it hit home. They had a lower attendance at a recent home game than they did during the pandemic when fans were not allowed in the stands. There's no way that could be true. But I think they were saying, like, it's comparable to that. I was just, fuck, dude. You want to talk? I mean, Severino's complaining about pitching in Sacramento at a minor league stadium. Can you imagine pitching to, like, an empty ballpark? I mean, a lot of guys did that in 2020 and most of 2021. But when there is no pandemic and you have to do that, that's got to be creepy. But so we go into Baltimore against the Orioles. We lose 2-3. This is another series where it's like, would have liked to had one of those games. Won the first game 7-6, lost 3-1, lost 7-3. That was, I mean, that doubleheader, the second half of that doubleheader was tough to stomach. And so you end up going a game and a half behind Philly in the standings and NL East. And then we go to Kansas City and we take 2-3, but we lose on a walk-off. So it kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth heading into the All-Star break. Like, the Royals are not good this year. Like, you need to sweep that, especially after losing 2-3 to the Orioles. So even though we went 3-3, it's like you expected to go 5-1, 4-2, and you go 3-3. So not great. But how did the Mets rank in the majors at the All-Star break? The numbers are a little all over the place. Our batting average, we were 20th. So the batting average has been an issue. 244 ranks 20th in the majors. Our on-base percentage, though, is 11th, meaning that, you know, we're getting a fair amount of walks, and that's mostly due to Mr. Soto with a league-leading 84. Our slugging percentage is 9th. OPS is 8th, tied for 8th in home runs. But we're 14th in runs per game. And again, this goes back to what we saw against the Phillies. Even though it's a win, it's 11-4, it set records in terms of solo home runs. It's like, can we just, when we have guys on base and we have guys in scoring position, hit the frickin' ball. Just put it in play. You know, I'm fine if it's a ground out. I just don't want to see strikeouts anymore. We cannot be striking out with guys on base and runners in scoring position. Just put the ball in play. Preferably in the air, preferably in the outfield. 4th in ERA. So despite everything that went down in June over that skid and all the injuries and everything that's happened to the arms that we've had, and we've had a ton of arms, 4th in ERA. That's impressive. And that's a testament to just the hot start that we got off to. We're 19th in WHIP, though. So we are giving up above average level number of walks and hits. It's just the walks, and this is where it gets interesting. We've allowed the least amount of home runs. And I think that's why, and that's heavily overlooked, I think, a lot of the time, is like we pay so much attention to WHIP, but if you're just allowing singles and not doubles and triples and home runs, have at it, Haas. You want to play small ball against us? Go for it. We're tied for 9th in strikeouts. And the batting average against us is 11th. So most metrics were in the top 10, which is good to see. But you look at those league-wide stats and you're like, wow, how are we second in our division, almost first in our division? How are we in a position to where we have a wild card spot? It feels like we should be on the outside looking in, and we're not. So, I mean, you could point to, well, that's in-game type stuff. It's like, okay, we're not getting the hits, but we get the big hit, or we're not scoring a ton of runs, but we get that home run, or, you know, it's just finding ways to win. This This was our 55 and 42 mark going into the All-Star break, was the 10th best in the first half in franchise history. So, I had mentioned for the April recap for the Metros that it was the third best start in franchise history behind the 86 and 88 Mets. So for us to go down to 10th, a bit concerning. Then we had the All-Star game. Pete Alonso, I think, should have won the most valuable player. He had a 3-run home run to put the National League on top, and it was only because of friggin' Edwin Diaz coming in and blowing the save. It's like, you're not doing much to debunk the prevailing theory about you, Sugar. You're in the national spotlight, and you're in the All-Star game, and people only really hear, other than the narco stuff in 2022, people only really hear about how you blow saves, and you go and blow a save. And instead, Kyle Schwarber won the MVP in a swing-off. This is Alonso's 5th All-Star appearance in 7 years. Again, 5 and 7 years. Take a look through the annals of Mets history. How many players have hit 5 All-Stars in the first 7 seasons? So for the people that hate him, there's no changing your mind. You just hate him for whatever reason, because he's goofy or whatever. But I love the guy. He's a big polar bear. And but Kyle Schwarber winning the MVP for the All-Star game in the swing off feels dumb. I just don't I don't know. I turned it off when Alonso hit the home run, and they're going into the 7th or 8th inning, and the National League is up 6-3. I was like, all right, it's late. I'm going to go to bed. And of course, Diaz comes in, blows it. AL ties it up. They go to the swing off, and I guess Schwarber was down to his last 2 or 3 balls and hit home runs on each one. And it's like, okay. But weren't we just talking about the fact that the home run derby sucks now? The new format sucks. No one was watching. I didn't watch. I kind of watched, but it's not the same as it was back in the 90s, blah, blah. And it's so how is the swing off different from the home run derby? How can we make the home run derby more like the swing off? The swing off is getting all this attention and is so cool, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It kind of I guess the comparison would be to the NHL when they go into overtime and still tied. After an overtime period, they go into the shoot off. The shoot off is cool. The swing off is the baseball equivalent, but it's if you're winning, how do I put this? The shoot off in hockey, I feel is you need more skill because you have to still beat a goalie, a professional goalie. A swing off in baseball is just a meathead like Kyle Schwarber mashing a ball. I understand home runs are tough to hit when you're facing a professional pitcher, but when it's a BP guy, that's where I get a little lost. Now, if you had in the swing off, you take your top slugger and put it against their top pitcher, whoever is left, again, it's still not as good as the hockey shoot off, because I think the hockey shoot off is I don't know that you can top that, but it's the equivalent of a dunk off in the NBA. The NBA All-Star game is tied, so we're going to have a dunk off. The dunk off I would watch and find more exciting than the swing off. I don't know. It's very interesting to me that people shat on the home run derby, which is essentially the similar, very same, or almost identical to the swing off. Maybe it's because I didn't watch it. Maybe if I watched it back. But it's just people were going nuts over the swing off and not the home run derby. And I was just what? It's a BP pitcher, some old guy who just strokes it right down the cock, beach ball style, and he hit home runs, okay, to win the game, and he gets the MVP after he didn't do squat in the actual game. So Pete hits an actual 3-run home run to put the National League on top against an elite pitcher, all-star pitcher, doesn't win the MVP. Schwarber hits a couple of bombs off a fucking 55-year-old guy who is just serving it on a silver platter, and he gets the MVP. Okay. I know I'm a Phillies hater, and this is totally chalk and expected that I would take this stance on it, but I just think it's stupid that he won the MVP. And I don't think the swing off, I don't understand why the swing off is getting so much buzz when it's like, I could understand if it was whatever pitcher, all-star pitcher has not thrown yet, then has to take the bump, and he gets to throw whatever the fuck he wants. I don't know. So swing off. I mean, I'm not completely ruling it out. I do appreciate it and like the novelty and the concept. It's just, I think it needs some tweaking. And then, yeah, David Peterson, first time All-Star, he threw pretty well. So we had 3 All-Stars for the first time since 2022. Pretty cool. So, coming out of the All-Star break, there's 65 games left, 34 home games, 31 away. We have the 7th hardest schedule in Major League Baseball, 4th hardest in the National League, and 1st in the National League East. Opponents have a .511 winning percentage. So the road does not get any easier. Again, that's why I harp on the fact that we didn't win against the bad teams. The Pirates, the Royals, the Orioles, the Twins, the Braves, the A's. You know, that's 6 teams right there. Or that could be 6 wins. And you think, oh, out of 162 games, you're going to point at 6. And it's like, well, that could be the difference. You win 3 of those games, that could be the difference. 2 of those games, 1 of those games. So the key series coming out in the second half after the All-Star break. Oh, by the way, friggin' All-Star game. This All-Star game was bittersweet because it's like, obviously Pete does well, Edwin stinks, Peterson does well, Lindor was okay. But Javi Baez was the starter in center field for the American League, and Pete Crow Armstrong is the all-star for the Cubs in center field for the National League. And we traded away Pete Crow Armstrong in 2021 at the trade deadline for Javi Baez and Trevor Williams. It's like we're about to get into the best and worst trades for the Mets and at the trade deadline. I think that's got to be one of them. It's not, but it should be up there because Baez did not do much for us. He almost caused a fucking implosion. He gave us one of the best, coolest walk-off moments for sure. That was great where he loses the diamond necklace at home plate sliding in, but otherwise he was pretty bad. He like corrupted Lindor, had them doing thumbs down salutes to the crowd, and we gave up Pete Crow Armstrong. Trevor Williams played better than I think people would have thought and gave us a couple good seasons, but like Baez as a rental was just major fail. And now Pete Crow Armstrong looks like he's just going to go on a fucking run. And, of course, Javi Baez is back to playing all-star baseball. Let me see if I can pull up his stats real quick. Yeah, because I know he struggled. He didn't exactly... Well, I guess he did play fairly well for us during that time span. He played better with us than he did with the Cubs the previous season and before getting traded. But he had an okay, not so great year in 22 with the Tigers. Took a step back in 2023 and then really stunk in 2024. I think he was hurt for most of that year. But then he gets elected to the All-Star team in 2025 as a center fielder. Maybe I misread that. I was just like, what? But yeah, I guess he plays center field. That was wild. So, I don't know. God damn. That's up there as far as bad trades go. So the key series for the Mets after the All-Star break, heading down the home stretch. They've already played one of these series. It was July 25th to the 30th. We had the 6-game road trip in San Francisco and San Diego. Obviously, sweep the Giants, who were in a free fall. Not to say that we dominated them. We had to come back in 2 of those games, so it wasn't like complete annihilation, but we took the series, swept them, and then we get swept by the Padres in San Diego. We looked really bad against the Padres in San Diego, and that was going directly into the trade deadline. And it's series. That's why I am not all in on this team. it's weird because I was all in on this team after we got Soto. April into early May had me flying as high and as close to the sun as possible. I was just like, there's no stopping us. We're a juggernaut. But then you look at a lot of these series where it's like we win the series, but it's against a bad team and we're barely winning. And then you look at the teams that are most likely going to be in the postseason or postseason contenders, and we're just not contending with them. So like the fact that we got smoked by the Padres in 3 straight games, it's like, ugh. And it's like, obviously this is before we acquired Helsley and Rogers and Mullins, but geez, it just doesn't look good. And then you're scraping by against the likes of, you lose 2 big games against the Reds. Like I know the people counted out the Reds, but the Reds are still kind of hanging around. You lose 8-4 and 5-2, especially in David Wright's induction into the Mets Hall of Fame and his number retirement. Like you lose on that day. It's like, that's tough. So I thought I would take a look at the top moments of David Wright's career. This is from Anthony DiComo, MLB.com, who I want to say he's co-writing or co-wrote David Wright's memoir, or writer forward to it. I don't know. He's got apparently a very close relationship with Captain America. And so in chronological order, we'll go through it. First moment is July 21st, 2004. It was his big league debut. He was the 38th pick in the 2001 draft. Wright took a little less than 3 years to climb to the Mets through the Mets minor league ladder, debuting in front of more than 30,000 fans at Shea. Went 0 for 4 against the Expos, but he doubled off Zach Day 1 day later for his first career hit. People forget David Wright played on the same team as Mike Piazza. Maybe they don't. August 9th, 2005 is the next top moment in David Wright's career. He was a two-time, he ended up being a 2-time Gold Glover, but he made perhaps the 2 most memorable defensive plays of his career within a 2-month span in 2005. First, in a June game against Seattle, he dove into the stands, leaping off both feet to snare Raul Ibanez pop-up. I know Gary Cohen has mentioned this in the booth a bunch of times, but like people always remember the play that like Jeter diving into the stands when he made the catch. The problem is that he made the catch, then dove in the stands. Wright dove into the stands and make the catch. There's a difference. 2 months later, against the Padres in San Diego, Wright made that unbelievable barehanded catch. August 9th, 2005, in shallow left field with his bare hand to rob Brian Giles of what seemed like a sure bloop single. It won MLB.com's 2005 This Year in Baseball Play of the Year award. Change it. Yeah, I mean, the only other barehanded catch that I can remember is from another Met who I don't think he did it as a Met. I think he did it as a San Francisco Giants. Kevin Mitchell in left field caught the ball with his bare hand, his throwing hand. That was sick. Possibly more impressive. I think that is probably more impressive than David Wright's, although David Wright had to dive and catch with his bare hand. So maybe Wright's is more impressive. But either way, what a play. I think that's at the point, 2005, I mean, yeah, no shit, Neal. Like 2004, he didn't really do much. But 2005 was when like, oh, we got something here. This is real nice. Reyes and Wright. Okay. That's when you started to get your mojo back as a Mets fan. That's when it was like, okay, we don't have to worry about the Roberto Alomars and the Mo Vaughns and the Brett Saberhagens and that period from 2001 to 2004 where it's like friggin' Art Howe and the tail end of Bobby Valentine. I don't know if there was another iteration in there, but it was just like 2001, we should have made the playoffs. 2002, we came on strong towards the end but missed the playoffs. And then 2003 and 2004 were just like gross. Like, oh, we got Tommy Glavine at age 38. Pedro Martinez at 38. So that was August 9th, 2005. That's when I was like, all right, this guy's got something. May 19th, 2006, he had the walk-off single in the year's first Subway Series game, taking a Mariano Rivera cutter to the center field wall, winning the game 7-6. Now, when he was up in the booth talking with Gary, Keith, and Ron during the game, when his number was retired, he was saying that's when he felt like he arrived on the scene, and that's when he knew that he had it. It's like kind of nuts to think about, because that 2005 season was awesome in terms of like, no, we didn't make the playoffs. A lot of that's due to the fact that Braden Looper was like a pretty not a great closer. Blew a few games. I just remember being excited, being down at the shore and watching it at the bar and just being like, oh, like we got some juice now. We got some energy. And a lot of that was because of Wright and Reyes, obviously, and Carlos Beltran. But it's interesting to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, and Wright saying like, okay, when I can take arguably the best closer in all of baseball history and beat him in a game against, crosstown rivals, like that's when he felt like he had made it, and he had like, that's the realization of his dream, and he knows that he belongs. It's like, oh, interesting things. July 11th, 2006, took until Wright's third season to make the first of his 7 All-Star games. Took him all of 2 innings to make an impact. He started at third base, batted 6th, and clubbed a Kenny Rogers pitch over the fence at PNC Park. Went on to hit safely in 6 of his 7 career All-Star games, batting .389 with a .977 OPS for the National League. Holy moly. That's gotta be up there, right? Kenny Rogers. Huh. You some bitch. March 17th, 2009. 3 outs from elimination in the World Baseball Classic. Wright hit a walk-off 2-run single off Fernando Cabrera to stun Puerto Rico, advancing Team USA to semifinals. Wright called the moment one of his career highlights. It's right up there at the top. Talking about representing the United States of America, you have that across the front of your chest. I'll be honest with you, I did not watch this, and I kind of don't care about the World Baseball Classic. I know I should. I just don't. And I kind of wish it was not one of his top moments. It's like, if that's one of his top moments, that means he didn't have enough top moments with the Mets. And I know that is such a fucking unpopular take, and I'm going to catch a lot of heat for it. But it's like, it's cool that he got the Captain America name. I'm grateful that happened so he could get the Captain America nickname, because that's a fucking cool nickname. Apparently now not Mike Judge. I know Mike Judge should get it. Aaron Judge apparently is now getting the Captain America nickname. It's like, all right, you can't find another nickname. Although I think it's funny that, well, it's not Sandman. I was going to say, because the new reliever we picked up, the closer, Helsley from St. Louis, his entrance music is Hell's Bells by AC/DC, which is so fucking awesome. But it's also like Trevor Hoffman had that. So like, why don't you, with Billy Wagner and Mariano Rivera, like Wagner had Enter Sandman and Rivera had Enter Sandman. I think Rivera used it first, so everyone said that Wagner copied Rivera. It's not as bad with Helsley and Hoffman, because Hoffman has been out of the league for so long. It's not like he owns the song, but you would like to see Helsley have his own entrance song. But damn, it's a pretty good entrance song to take. I was gonna say, like, we got the Yankees back for taking Captain America by taking Enter Sandman, but we didn't. We did not, in fact, do that. So then September 25th, 2012, he becomes the Mets' all-time hits leader, busting out an infield single to pass Ed Kranepool with his 1,419th career knock. Went on to rack up a few hundred more of the next 4 seasons, extending his record to 1,777. He should have at least hit 2,000. I don't know that if he stayed healthy, if he ever would have hit 3,000. I think he would have come close. I don't think he would have ever got to it, though. Did I skip that? Oh, so he did not get Captain America. There's 2 World Baseball Classics? See, this is where I disagree, and I hate that 2 of his top moments came in the World Baseball Classic. That's just like, it sucks as a Mets fan. If you're a baseball fan, yeah, great. But like as a Mets fan, you're like, fucking World Baseball Classic takes up 2 of these slots. March 19th, 2013, this is where he actually gets the Captain America moniker by hitting a grand slam in 2013 against Team Italy. It allowed the Americans to advance to the second round. He finished 7 for 16, 10 ribbies in the Classic. but had to leave due to a rib cage injury. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah, okay. I like that he has the Captain America nickname, and I get this is where it comes from. I just kind of like, you don't have any top moments of the Mets that could top that? I guess not. Oh, that sucks. March 21st, 2013. Oh, Captain, my Captain. When the Mets rewarded Wright with an 8-year, $138 million contract following the 2012 season, oh boy, his captaincy seemed inevitable. 3 months later, in a spring training ceremony, Wright followed Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez, and John Franco as the fourth captain in team history and the first since Franco in 2004. Wright eschewed the symbolic C on his jersey, preferring to keep the emphasis on the team. Ah, classy. And you know what? It stinks that, I mean, a lot of people thought, or at least I thought, and maybe the booth thought, that wouldn't it be amazing if the day after Wright retires, the team retires Wright's number, inducts him into the Mets Hall of Fame, the day after, it's like Wright passes the torch to Francisco Lindor, and Francisco Lindor is made the captain. Like, wouldn't that have been just poetic, just so sweet, and would have been such a great narrative? And it didn't happen. It's like, it was right there for the taking. I think it would have infused the team with energy. It would have given the fan base another jolt of energy. And instead, it was just like, nope. And it's just like, what is the delay here? Like, because like I said, when Lindor goes, the team goes. He is the de facto leader of the clubhouse. He's the one that's talking to each and every player after each and every series. He's the one that's calling team meetings and rallying the troops, and who is there in the good times, but is more importantly there in the bad times when the team is struggling and sucks and he's slumping. He's at his locker, taking questions, rapid fire questions from one of the toughest media reporters and media team members in the country, if not the world. What the fuck? That would have been so cool. And instead, they just, I don't know. Because, like, to me, it's like Soto might be the better player. I don't view Soto as a captain. I just view him as a producer. He's just like, he's gonna excel in every category, but I don't see him as the team leader. From and from a statistical standpoint, yeah, sure, he's the team leader. But like, I view Lindor as the guy that has really pulled everyone together. Like, I think people wanted to look towards Alonso as the guy because he's excitable and you can tell he's very emotional and passionate. But does he have the leadership qualities? He has some, but he doesn't have the ones that Lindor does. And I think that movement started last year with Lindor. Like, okay, this guy pulled us out of the doldrums at the end of May and starting in June, and was able to pull the team together and get them on the right track. And so that's when the captain the captain chat started talking, started moving, started gaining momentum. And then it's just like, why not? I mean, that's just like such a great time to do it, especially when the team is, middling. It's like we're in neutral. Like, we're out of the slump, but we're not exactly streaking. We're just kind of hanging in there. You don't think this would have given a nice little bump, a nice little nudge? Feels like an oversight in my HO. August 24th, 2015. Mets were unsure if Wright would play again. He hit the disabled list in April due to a hamstring injury. That's when he discovered he had spinal stenosis, G-unit, a degenerative back condition. Wound up missing 4 months, and then obviously cost him his career. But he did make it back for that push in August. August 2015 is up there. If you want to do like a ranking of the top months in Mets franchise history, August 2015, tough to beat. Wright comes back from the injury, plays out of his mind. The team trades for Yoenis Cespedes. He goes on an absolute fucking tear. We have guys like Juan Uribe stepping up. Kelly, what was his name? I think we got him from the Braves. Left-hander, he was coming up clutch. I mean, it was just like Wilmer's starting to hit. it just felt like everything was coming together, and like Duda was stepping up and Conforto, and it was just like, wow. So August 2015, man, I was on cloud nine. I think everyone was. His first at bat back from the DL, he hits a home run into the second deck at Citizens Bank Park. I don't know if it's just, I think he has hit the most home runs in that stadium of any player in the majors. He's had a lot of great success against the Phillies. I know that, and I think he owns the Phillies in Philadelphia. So they were probably the happiest to see him, his spine wither away. Brutal. October 13th, 2015. In his first World Series game in Queens in 15 years. Oh, in the first World Series game in Queens in 15 years. Not his, but the first one. Wright hits a go-ahead 2-run home run off Giordano Ventura to electrify the Citi Field crowd. He went on to drive in 4 runs, and the Mets only won the series. And I was fortunate enough to be there. I got to see it in person. We had standing room only tickets. We stood in probably the worst possible spot, but it felt so comfy to us and cozy to us. And I just saw, like, it got to the point where we were looking and we could see the field, but it was like letterbox. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're watching an old school DVD or a lot of movies nowadays on streaming, where there's like the black strip at the top and the black strip at the bottom. That was like what it was like watching that Mets game in standing room only, because like, we're second tier and we have the overhang over us, so it cuts off. So any fly ball, like we don't see where it's going. So I just remember the crowd going absolutely nuts when he hit that home run. And it was one of the coolest moments of my life. I was with my wife at the time. We were talking about possibly naming our daughter Murphy because of Daniel Murphy, and also Interstellar was so hot at that point, and the girl in that was named Murphy. So that was a top moment for me personally, and it's also a top moment for David Wright. And then you have the farewell in September of 2018, late September 2018. He underwent neck, shoulder, and back surgeries over the next 3 seasons. And then it became clear that he couldn't continue, and so he arranged for a return during the season's final weekend at Citi Field. Pinch hit in Friday's game before playing 5 innings at third base. The following night, delivered a heartfelt speech to more than 44,000 fans at the stadium. And his quote that will forever be remembered is, "This is love. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me no more." So David Wright, top moments in David Wright's career. Should be more. I'll say it. I know it's a bold statement, but I'll say it. Should have gone to the World Series in 2006. That would have been a top moment. That would have been 1 or 2 top moments right there in 2006. Going to the World Series and possibly winning it, because we would have won had we gone. 2007, 2008. I know I brought it up once before. I'm going to bring it up again. If the Mets don't collapse, we go in the postseason. We take away those 2 collapses towards the ends of each season, and those were 2 really good seasons with 2 really good ball clubs that had potential to go make deep runs and just faltered at the worst possible time. And so that's, you're looking at 3 straight years where there could have been top moments in the postseason at least. And then, obviously everything goes to shit from 2009 through 2014. Those are some rough years. Those are some really rough years. 2009 to 2014. I'm trying to think. Like, there were some, you have like the what's his face dropping the pop-up against the Yankees. You have maybe there was one, like, I remember there being one walk-off win in 2011 that was pretty sweet. Might have been Lucas Duda in the summer 2011. You have Johan's no-hitter in 2012, which has got an asterisk. And then Harvey Day dominated 2013. So it was like not a lot that we had going for us during that span. Should have had more. I still think it would be fucking sweet if we somehow got him onto a roster for the World Series. I don't know how we can get that to happen, but that would be cool. Yeah. So coming out of the All-Star break, we win 1 of 3 from the Reds, barely, in that game 3 to salvage the series. But losing 2 of the 3 the Reds stinks. And then you go and sweep the Angels. But even something like this, right? You sweep the Angels and you sweep the Giants. The sweep against the Angels probably should not have been a sweep. I mean, we were down in each of those games, and the Angels defense just straight up collapsed, like just forgot how to play defense, making bonehead error after bonehead error. And so I really do think that, most other teams, the majority of the other teams in the majors would have pulled off that sweep of us. So the Angels sweep didn't really give me any kind of good vibes, but it was good to have Brooks Raley back. It was good to have Francisco Alvarez back. He made his return. He hit 11 home runs in 19 games for Syracuse. That's what I call rehab, volume 69. Like, that's how you should do rehab. His first plate appearance, the home crowd gave him a standing ovation, which is great to see. He hit 236, 319, and 333 OPS over his first 35 games with the Metros. So, he was struggling. And this is why I go back to, like, when they signed Soto, I put out that video or that episode reacting to it. And I said, oh man, 1 through 9, like, is this one of the best lineups? And I had penciled in Vientos for 20 to 30 home runs, Alvarez 20 to 30 home runs. And so far, both of those guys have come up way short. And I think that's what's ultimately been holding us back, is like, because, well, here it is. It's encouraging that we can still win games when Soto, Nimmo, Lindor, and Alonso are all struggling at the same time. That's impressive to me, is that you can have other guys like a Vientos, a Beatty, Alvarez, Mauricio. They can step up, McNeil, and step up and win games for you. That to me gives me hope. So that's good. But, July 21st, Lindor's season worst slump, 0 for 26. One of the worst slumps in Mets franchise history. Only the top slump, the worst slump in Mets franchise history, was Ray Ordonez going 0 for 37 in 1997. Which I love that 97 team too, which is weird. I mean, we didn't go to the playoffs, but man, I fucking love that team. We had Lance Johnson, Bernard Gilkey, Butch Husky, John Olerud, I think, was on that team. We had Ray Ordonez. It just felt like we had the makings of something really good, and ultimately missed the mark. Didn't go to the postseason. Although I think in the current playoff format, we might have made the playoffs. Anyway, it's like we didn't bat an eye at Ordonez going 0 for 37 because the guy was not known for his bat. He was known for being a wizard with his glove. And so it didn't really faze me that he went 0 for 37. Now, Lindor goes for 0 for 37. Everybody's hearing about it. So this is the 0 for 26 skid is second only to his 0 for 27 slump in 2016. So has a history of doing this, He just goes cold sometimes, I still think it might have something to do with the toe. Like, you break a toe, and he didn't really take a ton of time off from that. He broke it, June 10th in that area? It's now 6 to 8 weeks later. I don't know. It should be healed, but he didn't take time off to really let it heal. I think he sat maybe like a game or two, if that. So it's got to be bothering him a little bit, I would think. The Philadelphia Inquirer reported that the Phillies are averaging 325,000 viewers per game locally on NBC Sports Philadelphia. So take this for what it's worth. It is the Philadelphia Inquirer reporting it. But 20% higher than the second most watched team in the MLB, who are your and my and our New York Metros. So, attendance is up. We're getting record attendance. I mean, we're getting sold out crowds, fully packed crowds at like Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon games, which is unheard of. So people are showing up, and hopefully the team can feel that because, and I think they do. And part of me thinks that maybe they did put too much pressure on themselves because of it. But so we were going into the trade deadline after getting swept by the Padres in San Diego, where we looked just awful. Probably should have won the one game, but Brazaban fails to cover first, and so a run scores, and then it gets out of hand. So we probably should have took one of the games, but we get swept by the Padres, which to me, that's what gives me pause and says, I don't think we got it. Yeah, so that's it for this episode. In terms of future Mets content, future Mets episodes, we're going to look at the Mets all-quarter century team. So it's the best Mets team. So it's the Mets team of the 2000s, the 21st century, through 25 years, from 2000 to 2025. Who's our Mets team? Looking at each position there. We're also going to we're going to try and rank the Athletic put out like the best MLB's 25 best games of the 2000s, which I'm not like crazy about their list. The Mets had 2 slots on that list, which very interesting, the games that they chose over 25 years. And then we're going to look at, that inspired me to take a look at the 25 best New York Mets games of the 2000s. But for now, grazie. Thanks for listening. And thank you for watching. And we'll talk to you soon. Adios, muchachos.